You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Welcome to Cinema Z, a film discussion and review podcast on BQN. We're here to showcase the films you probably missed, but should definitely check out. From independent and obscure to art house and absurd, each episode will gather, perhaps cocktail in hand, to discuss it all. I'm your host, Mark, and with me today, of course, are Matt and Laz. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey there.
So, guys, what's up? You guys have any? I have a margarita today. I'll get into the reasons later for this particular film, but are you guys drinking anything particular? Laz, you staying hydrated?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good.
No, I'm also staying hydrated today. That margarita, though, for listeners, that margarita looks so good. It's like this beautiful yellow color. It's actually really delicious looking.
Well, I was trying to think of what to do for this particular week, because I like keeping it themed, and I was thinking, well, in Tigerland, like they want to go AWOL and flee down to Mexico, right? And I'm thinking, oh, Mexico, margaritas. Like, okay, I was like, I'll go with that theme of like AWOL.
That makes sense. It makes sense.
So, feedback. I didn't actually grab any feedback this week. It's been a busy week, but I know we had a lot of engagement for our last couple episodes in Twitter and on Facebook. I know we've got listeners out there. I mean, we haven't even been around. We have less than 10 episodes, and we already have like 70 people around the world that has checked us out, and that's great.
Thank you all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for those that are listening.
Quite a good showing for just, a few episodes in. So, yay! Thanks, guys, and hopefully that keeps growing.
Yeah.
Well, how are your weeks? Everybody doing good?
I'm good. I mean, this isn't a negative, but I do want to say, as of today, the actors SAG-AFTRA has now gone on strike. So I'm just saying, in solidarity with the WGA, I stand with the WGA and SAG-AFTRA.
Absolutely. Yeah, good timing actually for this week's discussion, because it's about standing up for against an unjust system, so to speak, right? And
absolutely.
Standing up for your basic human rights and dignity, and so I admire and applaud anybody that has the the balls to do that, and it's not an easy thing to do, but it's hopefully going to be worth it in the end, and it's great they're doing it in solidarity with the writers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Agreed. Yeah, for me, I'm coming off of having I know this is not a Star Trek podcast, but I just came off of doing Paramount Plus's Star Trek Bingo featuring Jackie Cox from New York and Anthony Rapp. And I will say, in similar fashion, it felt very promotional. And there's been a lot of discussion around Paramount Plus. And y'all know me at this point. I'm like a social justice warrior. And
Laz, I'm not used to you speaking your mind like this.
Oh, I know. It's so bizarre. And it grinded my gears and prepared me for this discussion. So,
whoops!
Grinded your gears. Okay.
Let's see which Laz we get today.
We'll see.
All right, listeners. Well, I'm sure you're as excited as I am. Well, I don't know if you are. I'm pretty darn excited about this particular film. We are going to be discussing this week a movie called Tigerland. Now, Tigerland is a 2000 American war drama directed by Joel Schumacher and starring Colin Farrell. It takes place in 1971, while a nation stands divided over the escalating war in Vietnam. Thousands of young Americans lie dead on foreign soil, and at Fort Polk, Louisiana, thousands more prepare to join them. The specter of combat hangs over the men of A Company, 2nd Platoon, as they enter the final stage of infantry training. They will be sent to the war. But each man deals with this prospect in his own way. One man's defiance, however, galvanizes every member of the platoon. So, why did I pick this film? I have so many favorite films. It might have been timing around Memorial Day when I was thinking about it anyway. I was seeing a lot of war movie stuff. But this movie has always, since my first viewing, been able to pull emotions out of me. Like, I think, Laz, you and I have talked about liking, sad movies, sad music, that kind of thing. Yeah. And here's a movie that when I just want a good cry, I could put it on and I feel all the feels. And we don't have to have been in combat situations. We don't have to have ever been in the army to feel what it's like to be thrown into a situation that's outside of our own control, maybe with a group of other people, and, find out how we can survive in a particular scenario that's alien to us, right?
Yeah.
And so I found the movie really relatable. But enough about me. How did you guys feel?
So I didn't know what to expect walking into the movie. When I was watching it, and my feelings after watching it, I felt as if I had been on this journey with these characters. I think especially with the way that it was shot. I think with the way that I'm not sure what the way that the frames, the way that visually it looked very grainy. It felt like, it felt like a documentary. It felt like I was watching a Vietnam documentary, or like I was supposed to be out there with these soldiers. So I definitely felt like a fly on the wall. It was really interesting. I needed to take a breath after watching the movie, because I think for a good chunk of it, you have these beautiful moments where things kind of go to a very intimate setting. You have an intimate scene, and then you have moments where things get really intense and ramped up. So overall, my reaction to the film was very visceral, not in a way that made me angry, but just in a way that I felt very present in watching.
Yeah, I'll kind of jump in there and say that for me, watching the film, and mind you, thank you, Mark, for recommending it. It would not be a film that I would choose on my own accord.
Mm-hmm.
But when you recommended it, there was something about it that touched me, because my sister is actually a former, representative of the U.S. Army. So I wanted to see what that experience was like. I'm not sure that I got what her experience would be like, because I find that a lot of U.S. military folks don't necessarily, they're trained to kind of not talk about it or not to express. So it was interesting to kind of dive into what that means for certain people at a certain time.
And I definitely have a lot of empathy, especially for the soldiers that had no choice during the draft era. Because now it's like it's a little different scenario. You kind of choose to do it. You can be out now, which has changed. But for these guys, if one of them, and I'm thinking about Cantwell, for example, who was, very sort of on the spectrum, sort of effeminate a little bit and sweet. I mean, he was married, but
gosh forbid he had emotion.
I felt like he was like almost like the gay character in it, even though he wasn't. I could see that happening to a gay character at that time, of just somebody finding out that he was sensitive and beating the living crap out of him till he his eyes are swollen and whatnot, or worse, in that really hyper masculine environment. And so I don't know, I just have a lot of empathy for characters in films, and I just I think about like each of the characters in this movie, and it really gets me.
Yeah, for me it was kind of difficult to, like, at least with this film, empathize with the characters as much, because like that's not me. But in association, like I said, with like somebody like my sister, I was like, well, does that still exist? Does that behavior to some extent still surround that institution of sorts?
Yeah.
And that was what I was really latching on to get me through like the emotional value behind the characters. Because like female, male, whoever you are, at any different time, going into war, fighting against whomever, villain of any like country or story, that's a very big issue to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, and like you said, like a draft is very different, but I think that, even years later, even when my sister was not even considered, she was like a softball star in college, that became like a resort for her. It was like, well, now like maybe like this would be good for you because like you get in the army and like you're set for life,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So, there's benefits that are given to you up front that do they work? I don't know. I'll probably get in trouble for this, but whatever.
Oh God, what's the name of the character? I think that's the character that is getting beat up that you were just talking about, Mark.
Oh, Cantwell?
Kentwell. And that's the same character that we find out that was kind of drafted and he didn't quite know what he was signing up for. Is that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Because he wasn't educated. I think he graduated like third or fourth grade. Yeah.
Because I remember hearing stories like that, but I just think about the many soldiers that probably happened to, and oh gosh, I don't know. There are many moments in this movie where I try to put myself in the situation, and I was trying to look at it from both sides to a certain extent in terms of, well, we've got the reality that this is kind of life or death for these people.
Mm-hmm.
And so to a certain extent, you have to be, I think what I would hear in regards to the kind of training that soldiers get is that, you have to be tough on the soldiers because the enemy is going to be tough.
Yeah.
And at the same time, in this movie, to me, there's the subject of mental health and how that's
Mm-hmm.
just thrown, in my opinion, thrown out of the window, at least in this movie. And
Oh, that's
the only
surprising.
person that really, huh?
It's sort of surprising to hear that. I mean, about this film, because to me, when I think about this film, that is one of the things I think about because, and I want both of your opinions on this because,
Yeah.
this is what makes, to me, the movie so special is it's not your linear Saving Private Ryan, right? So where it's this
Yeah.
linear story that's like,
Right.
okay, these guys are searching for this guy Ryan, they got to go through this war zone, or Monuments Men, they got to save all the paintings. Like, there's all these war movies where even Tarantino had the one where it was like killing the Nazis, but it had like a story, but they were out pretty much just slaughtering Nazis. This story was sort of unique because I felt like the story was looking at the mental health of the soldiers. Now,
Yes.
you could see, I guess, the military's flippant attitude about it.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I.
But I felt like
that's
the
what I'm
focus
referring to.
was on the mental health.
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to. Is that the military viewpoint or the leaders in charge
Mm-hmm.
of the company were throwing it out of the window, and the characters that actually focus on it are Colin Farrell's character. Even though I think even with him in his own way, there are things that he kind of denies and pushes off
Mm-hmm.
as well. But he has a moment with particular characters where he speaks to them. He's kind of a therapist, an on-site therapist, which I thought was very interesting. But I say that to say with all that there, it was an interesting commentary on how, mental health, at least at that point, is kind of thrown out of the window in terms of what was going on with the military at that time.
I think even though it's set in a different time than ours, I think and some would argue it's mental health or not, but
Yeah.
there's an innate sense that this film is like talking about, like these are all young people,
Yeah. Yeah.
young men specifically. And there is like a battle of what like masculinity means.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like
That's definitely in there, too.
there's a lot of like weird conjurings before it was even a thing,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
even back in 2000, of like toxic masculinity.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think it was intended, but it's shown. Like
Oh,
when I
yeah.
see it now versus then,
They definitely examined that in the sort of the subtext of this film.
but I don't
Intended
think it
or
was
not,
intended because I'm sorry, Joel Schumacher is not like a person I consider like an auteur, but I think unintendedly it happened. And
Maybe it was the writers.
Perhaps.
Agreed there on him not really being an auteur filmmaker, but this one, sorry. Anyway, it goes without saying I'm a fan because I picked it. All right. So I think we've actually been talking about mental health. I think this is a good time to launch into director's cut because we're going to be really going through a couple of scenes that do examine mental health from a couple of different perspectives and how two different characters sort of play off that.
And now we're pleased to bring you our feature presentation.
The first scene I've chosen here was the mess hall scene, which to me is one of my favorite scenes in all of cinema, of all films I've watched, which is crazy. And that's another reason I would probably pick the film, is because this one scene, I think I picked it for this scene. But I'd like to be Cantwell in it because it's like a dream to play this part. And I don't know, whatever you guys want for the other, because I think there's actually all three of us can do something. I think.
What do you want to be, Paxton or Boz?
I will be Paxton.
I'll be Boz.
Oh, I don't know if I'm ready for this. Hold on. I was ready the other day when I was talking to
You got
Matt,
it. You got it.
because it's really special.
Action.
That's a big old moon shining down. Reminds you what this whole hard world's all about.
What? Peeling potatoes?
It's good you talk so slow, Cantwell. Paxton there is taking notes. Shit, maybe he'll put you in a book or something. Another one of those hokey characters, the bumpkin saint.
I don't rightly know what you're talking about. I don't read much. Never got past 6th grade. Got married. Got a wife back home. Poor little girl, she has seizures. These spells, you know. 4 little children gotta go out without mama now and again.
Jesus, Cantwell, when did you get married? You were 12?
Hell no, I was 15. We had 2 together. She had 2 previous. But I'm 19. She's a mite older. She's 28. I got a little boy who's 1 and a little girl who's 2.
What the fuck are you doing here, man?
Don't it strike you? That's the same moon shining down. Shining down on us here. Shining down on that little girl who's my wife. And the same moon that's going to be shining down when they send us to war. It's the same moon that shined down on us, on those poor little boys getting themselves shot at. Don't it strike you what that means? How each of us is a little bit of everything, and everything is shit. And I know that back home the preacher be talking about right and wrong, about the Lord and God and Jesus. But you know, if the Lord or God or Jesus be standing here right now, he'd say, Cantwell, forget about all those promises. You forget all about what anybody ever said. You forget about those big, fancy Sunday ideas, even what we tell you. You just look up there. You ever see such a moon?
Cut.
Damn, boy. Good job.
I tried. I really tried for that one.
Bravo.
Good scene. And
Thank
so, I mean, it's so delicious to have, you know, as a supporting character who's probably in, at least 20 minutes of the movie? Is that
Yeah.
right?
He's one of the first to go.
And he gets like this beautiful backstory and this beautiful piece in just 2-3 minutes. That's amazing. Yeah. It's one of my favorite parts of this movie.
Yeah, we do have a second scene, and I enjoy this one for other reasons. I think it's because you really see Boz here. Like, you see him. You understand his character more from this one scene, I think, than you do most of it, because he's the most raw, the most real. He's like way over everything, you know what I mean? And it just comes out in this. And this is the pep talk sort of between Ezra and Boz in the woods. And yeah, I don't know. Do you guys have parts that you want to do in particular. I think there's only 2 on this one. I don't care if I do this one or not. I really wanted to do the last one, so it's up to you guys.
I say you do Boz.
Okay.
I don't mind doing Ezra.
All right. So, pep talk in the woods.
Action.
Are you stupid enough to fuck with me, boy? Tomorrow at the base is you, me, and the captain. And if your insubordinate ass ain't in the stockade by midday chow, then I'm going to take you out and kill you myself.
Shit. You're not going to kill me, Sergeant. I don't know what you're going to do with me, but you're not going to kill me. Fuck.
God damn you, boss. Don't turn your back on me, god damn it. Get your ass back over there with all the men right now.
Look, I understand your position. I ain't trying to fuck things up for you. I know you've got your army to run, your people to kill and shit. I'm just not part of it.
Nobody quits the army, boss.
I'm not quitting. Just not playing. What's your first name, Sergeant?
Ezra.
Ezra. Here, can I offer you a smoke?
Now you listen to me, son. I've been to where you're going. Now, over there, you go from living to dead awful quick. What I'm trying to teach you may save your worthless life. Maybe. So I tell you what, if you snap shit from now on and soldier like I know you can, I'll forget about this.
I can't. Shit, even if I wanted to. I'm not here
What kind
anymore.
of bullshit statement is this, boss?
Ezra, no, it's just me.
Okay, boss. All right. I'm going to let you go. But back at Garrison, it's you and the CO. I'm out of it. Soldier, this army's going to come down on your ass hard. Both feet. You know that, don't you? They're going to push through your papers and send your ass where they're dying this week.
Is this a trick? You trying to make me a hero or something?
Nope.
Well, good, Ezra.
Now you get your ass up and you join these men right now.
Cut.
I didn't even realize there was more of the scene and I wrote the damn thing. Thanks, Les.
Also, such a good scene. It's such a freaking good scene, man. You know, and to have to, I'm just thinking as an actor to like, because there's a really big tonal shift for Ezra. You know, Ezra has to go, you know, from being this hard ass and to, you know, I think in his own way having whatever facade that he has to put on, whatever hard exterior. And I know that, you know, we're talking about masculinity, toxic masculinity, all of that stuff that he has layered up at the beginning of the scene in like the light of a cigarette. I mean, in my opinion, I think that's where it happens. In the light of a cigarette, all that has to come down. And then he's got to have this heart to heart with,
It's,
you know, with
a very simple gesture.
Right. And that's the twist. I think it's just a very interesting scene to play, but
It was very human.
Yeah.
In an environment that wasn't really, they weren't treated like humans.
Oh, no.
The soldiers.
No.
Well, they also didn't know how to treat each other like humans.
Yeah.
They all came from very different, you know, backgrounds and circumstances, but they were told, you know, you're going into this is what you should be. But they all have vulnerabilities that they're constantly fighting. Yeah.
And I think in this scene especially, you know, yet again, we've got Boz being the therapist, being the counselor. And yeah, we see it with him and the soldiers, and we see it in this situation with him with the superior. It's just a great scene.
What's interesting, another interesting thing about this movie is the movie's supposed to be from Paxton's standpoint, like the blonde guy.
Right.
Because he's the narrator. It's his story. He's essentially written this story about his time at boot camp and about Boz.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be his story. But really, as a viewer, as you're watching it, the character I feel like that is the character that's supposed to be the audience. You know what I mean? Like, supposed to represent the audience.
Yeah.
Is probably Boz.
Yeah, I would agree.
So the only thing I would challenge is, do you think that's the intention by the filmmakers or just by us as viewers, being of a different mind? Like would some others kind of gravitate towards different characters? Because I've been reading some stuff recently about like filmmaking and just politics nowadays. So I can imagine, what
the movie could have been really about any of the characters that were in this film. I feel like they all had very complex stories, at least for the most part. Most of the main and secondary cast. I had a discussion with you, Matt, sort of post viewing, when I was asking your opinion on the black soldiers and their role in this. And I don't know if you feel comfortable sharing, but I'd love just you to interject that a little bit for our listeners, if you could.
I mean, I wrote it down here. I mean, I think with the depiction of the black soldiers, we have the one black soldier that we follow a little bit in this film. And I mean, the reality is that, soldiers of color were not treated the best during the Vietnam War. I have some statistics here. In 1965, they made up about 31% of the ground combat battalions. And I believe about 24% of the casualties were African American. I think for the sake of this movie and this story, I think we're following a very specific character and this very specific story that's being told. I would like, and I think we still need to have more stories about people of color in the military and the sacrifices that they have made and the sacrifices that they've made in spite of still being treated less than. There's a story about Port Chicago, which not a lot of people know about, which is a prime example of that. I think something that did bother me a little bit was in the moment towards the end of the movie, I believe, there's a set of black soldiers and they're singing a song, and it kind of narrates one of the final scenes of the movie. And as a scene, I get it and it works, but there was this pinch that I felt when I watched these black soldiers sing this song, narrating a scene as if they were just a set piece. And I say that to emphasize that I wish that we had more stories about black soldiers in the military and their contributions and their sacrifices that were made, and the more that they sacrificed.
Yeah.
I
wanted to ask because I think it's important. It's an important discussion. But I also want to recognize the actors that did participate, the African American actors in this film.
Yeah.
It can't be easy to knowingly take a job like as an actor where you're going to be playing, a role in a time period that was not kind to your people, right?
Yeah.
And you'll be like the N-word thrown at you by a white actor. Even in a scene, it's got to be uncomfortable, right? So shout out to those guys. And I also want to say that as small as their parts were in this, when I do think about the movie, yes, I think about the peel and potatoes scene. That's one that stands out for me. But the African American soldiers singing and the altercation sort of on the back of the truck are also two things that stand out for me as being memorable and that I think about. And I think they played the scenes very well. And I think their singing was really good. Like, I enjoyed it. Like, they had great harmony. So they had talent there. It would have been great to see more of it. But I recognize the talent that was there as little as they had to work with.
Yeah.
I will jump in and just say, being a Latino, I can't necessarily relate to, Matt's perspective
Mm-hmm.
as equally, but like that time, even again, 23 years ago at this point,
Yeah.
everything was so whitewashed,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
media.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was reading an article today about like some of the breakthroughs of like the Emmy nominations. And Pedro Pascal is one of two Latino actors who've ever been nominated for Emmys ever.
Wow.
Are you serious?
Jenna Ortega is only one of three actresses ever nominated ever within the history of Emmys.
Oh my God.
Well, let's
So,
congrats to her for being nominated.
I mean, yes, but
No,
wow.
congrats to them for sure. I'm just
Yeah.
kind of voicing the fact that there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So
Oh yeah.
I think it's hard to watch a film like this, because yes, it's a historical drama of sorts,
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
but I just wish there was a little bit more respect, to your point, Matt, given to people who aren't necessarily part of that narrative.
Yeah. It's very interesting, to jump off of that, Lars. It's like watching this movie is like watching the time capsule of a time capsule.
Mhm.
If that makes any sense. It brings about feelings just from the perspective of the soldiers, and then it brings about feelings from the perspective of all of us who love film as well.
Or have experienced anything, like
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but we watch films to relate. So
Yeah.
I haven't been in a war necessarily like on, the ground like someone like my sister has, or
Yeah.
people have, and have like laid down their lives. And, thank goodness that there are people out there who are willing to do that. I personally have not. So
Yeah.
I can't say anything about that. But a lot of it is through the lens of what's popular at the time,
Mhm.
what we as viewers are willing to accept, and what
Yeah.
not. It's like we either get like way too little or way too much and nobody accepts it, and it's like such a balance beam when like there's no reason.
Do you guys know Sean Hayes?
Yes.
So
He's Matt, he's from Will and Grace.
Jack,
Oh,
he played
Sean
Jack in Will and
Hayes.
Grace.
Yes.
They have a podcast that I've been listening to. It's okay if our listeners check that out too. It's not on BQN, but it's a good podcast where they're recapping all the Will and Grace episodes. And Sean Hayes has never actually rewatched a single episode, supposedly. And so he's rewatching it with the guy that played Will. And one of the things he was saying is that there was a lot of discussion around Jack's costumes and stuff. They didn't get a lot of blowback from the network on having a gay character, shockingly, at that time. They struck while the iron was hot. It was like a good time post sort of Ellen, and that they all were surprised that there wasn't blowback, but there wasn't. There was a lot of talk, though, about his wardrobe and the fact that they wanted to put him in all these high fashion, bright colored, tight things. And he kind of drew a line in the sand with the producers on that and just said it wasn't right for his character. And one of the reasons was Sean, at that time was actually in the closet, believe it or not, playing a gay character on TV. But to be out in Hollywood as an actor at that time, it was really limiting, right? So he needed to keep things close to the chest. But he just thought that with his character being so over the top anyway, adding that other piece he put it really well, but I think it was like putting a hat on a bird. Like the bird was already there. It already had colors. Like you didn't need to put a hat on it. And so they started dressing him in just like the sweater vests and stuff like that, and very sort of normal looking, which actually really helped his character. But I just thought it was interesting listening to that discussion about that time in Hollywood, because that was around the same time, late 90s, early 2000s, representation for the LGBT community, and the fact that he had legitimate concerns about his career and whether or not he'd ever be able to work again if people knew that he was gay, in spite of playing a gay character on on TV.
Yeah.
So I just, I thought that sort of related to what we were talking about a little bit.
Yeah, I'll kind of bring it back to the film. Like there's, some undertones for sure in this film when the two characters are getting sexy with people in the same room. I don't know, there's some tender moments between men, but it's not like really dived into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like hints of it, but again, I don't think, apologies, Mark, I don't think this film is as smart as I'm looking into it with, in terms of my lens. But I think there's stuff that now 23 years later I can kind of dive deeper into. I'm not sure if I saw it back then I would even consider those thoughts.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. I think this would be a good actual natural segue into the rewrites segment. We've already kind of been discussing about things that we are nitpicking a little bit about the film, but this gives us an opportunity to dive deeper into the things that maybe if we were to make the film, or if the film were to be made today, what would we suggest to be changed, improved, whatever. And my thought is the pacing. I felt like the pacing in the middle of the film drags a little bit. Like the beginning kind of starts out and sets up the characters, and there's a lot of beats there early on that I gravitate towards. Like the beginning part of the film is actually my favorite part of the film. But then the middle part takes a long time to get towards, the third part, the closure of the film. And so, that's just like, I find myself, if I nod off, it's always during kind of the middle of the film, and then I wake back up and like, okay, wait, I'm still watching. Hold on. So I don't know. What about you guys? What would you change a little bit?
I think so I already mentioned, the treatment of the soldiers of color. I think there are some things about Boz that he was almost a little too nonchalant in certain moments that sometimes it would take me out of the movie. I think on one hand, he has to have this unique quality of being a bit more laid back, a bit more free flowing, so we can go on the journey with him. But I think there's some moments where he's just so laid back that it was a little hard to believe. I think there was one moment, where was it? It's not the moment with his superior officer where they're smoking a cigarette. I think there's a line where he's talking to a soldier and he says to the soldier, the line is, "If I'm dead, how can I ask a question?" Maybe that's the line?
Oh yeah. So that scene is when it was towards the beginning. He was taking care of Cantwell again, who was not able to hit his target. And there was that one bully guy that was just kept relentlessly picking on everybody. And he went and grabbed the target and then switched it with the bully. And then, of course, the sergeant comes over and he blames the bully for not being able to hit his target, even though it was Cantwell. But he's protecting his friend there. So I thought that was cool.
I think it may have been that line, but I guess just overall, there's some moments where he's just a little too nonchalant, and it took me out of the movie just a little bit, and I questioned the reality of the scene. That's all.
I think it was the 60s, and he was a hippie, and he might have been high. I don't know. He got drugs from the people in the back of the van. That's how I fixed it in my head canon.
I would say that this film is a really valiant effort to portray a moment in time with a set of characters that are really rich. I think ultimately what I would rewrite or change about it is putting it in the hands of a director and writers who are more capable to dive deeper into that and to showcase it better. Joel Schumacher, for those of our listeners, he did Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. He did this was one of many box office flops for him. And I don't think that he latches on to the right aspects as a director that ropes somebody in properly. I think that a lot of the performances lift up this film. I think that those moments really shine. But I don't know that he, with his, let's say, beauty shots or close-ups, can really help that. Those are kind of tricks with filmmaking, but it's really the actors that are lifting this film up, not the director or writers.
Well, this is great because this is very organic as well to jump into standouts. So we did talk about things that we would change about the film, but standouts is a place where we can say something positive about the film we just consumed. Hopefully we all have something to say that's positive. I actually, Laz, you were just talking about the performances, and that is my standout for this. The phenomenal cast. I want to give a special shout out in particular to Clifton Collins Jr. as Miter and Tom Geary as Cantwell. Those two actors and those two characters, more so than Boz, those two characters to me are like the heart of the film. Now, Miter was suicidal. He was at one point going to break his hand. After the traumatizing experience with them going to demonstrate torture, like from the enemy, and they had him like drop his pants, and they were going to electrocute his nuts. He was visibly broken after that. Like, you believed it. And I actually, I have to give this shout out because this is really cool for me. I reached out. I've been a fan of this film since it came out, so the 2000s, and I reached out to Clifton Collins Jr. 2 years ago, maybe, on Twitter, and I never thought in a million years I'd get a response, but I just messaged him and I just told him how much his performance has meant to me, and how well I thought he did in the film, and just how special it was, and it really was there for me at a time in my life where I needed it. And I got a really thoughtful tweet back from him, and then I tweeted at him again, and then back, and we went back and forth a number of times on Twitter over the span of like a couple of months. I would just message, and then he would write me back, and I just thought it was so cool because, I mean, it's not just this film. I've seen a bunch of films that he's been in and really enjoyed them, but I don't expect usually Hollywood celebrities to respond back, and he did, and it was very, very kind. So thank you, Clifton Collins Jr. If you ever hear this podcast, it meant a lot to me. Thanks.
Thank you, Clifton.
Thank you, Clifton. I think that Mark should tweet that out once this episode is released.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Good for you. Holy darned.
It was really special for me. I was like, I think I cried actually when he tweeted back to me. I was so touched. I was like, 19, 20 when I saw the film, and I'm 41 now, so it's been a part of my life for half my life.
Well, you stole one of mine, so Clifton Collins Jr., great, thank you yet again. This is not your fan club, but it could be if you want. So I would say my standout, just to be judicial about it, is I do think Colin Farrell, for being so young, did stand out at his time. And I think that really, I think this role particularly, I think he had been in a few things before, but this one really catapulted him to where he's at now. I don't love Colin Farrell as an actor, but I do appreciate the times he gets it right. So I think he got it right with this one, or at least he tried very hard.
This isn't RoboCop.
Fair enough.
Was he in RoboCop?
The reboot.
He was?
Yeah.
I saw
he was
movie.
The star of the rebooted RoboCop from 2014, I think it was.
Oh, he wasn't. That was
no,
Joel,
that was
no.
That's the actor from
out.
Oh, I'm thinking of Total Recall. Sorry, he did the Total Recall.
Total Recall.
There we go.
I mean, those movies well, the 80s, those movies from the 80s that came out
Mark,
around the same.
that margarita really got to you.
It's the margarita. And I don't watch his blockbuster films, but I do like a lot of his like independent choices, like In Bruges. I love that movie. It's really good.
Yeah, I like In Bruges. I enjoyed that. That was
In a
fun.
Home at the End of the World, as cheesy as it is, I love that film too.
I think I already gave a shout out to the actor that played Cantwell. I think he just did a great job, and that character just had a great arc and a great scene within just 5 minutes. I just thought, well done. And some of the best performances are when that actor just has a very small amount of screen time, and everything about that character within that small amount of screen time. So I think that's a testament to talent. So well done to that actor.
Well, gentlemen, do you want to launch into trivia? We don't have a jingle for trivia yet. I don't know. Or any kind of piano music. I don't know what it would be.
Trivia.
Oh, we're saving that now.
Yeah.
We're locking that one in.
I have one. Clifton Collins, who is in Star Trek from 2009, playing Nero's second in command, IL, I believe. And then we've got James McDonald. Is that the name of the actor? James McDonald, who played Sergeant Thomas, who was in that Deep Space Nine episode from season 4, Little Green Men.
Oh, that's right.
He's interrogating Rom, and Rom is crying out for his Moogie. And
he's less menacing in that one.
Oh, he's less menacing. He's hilarious in that. And then I saw him in this, and I said, "Oh, I'm glad this person wasn't interrogating Rom."
Oh, Lord.
And you just got Mark way too excited.
I'm melting over
yes.
here. I'm turning into a raspberry.
Okay, so I'll continue the rest of the
Yes.
trivia. In one of the opening scenes, Boz can be seen reading the book Johnny Got His Gun. This is an anti-war novel written in 1938 by American novelist Dalton Trumbo. The story is of a young American soldier serving in World War I, who awakens in a hospital bed after being caught in a blast of an exploded artillery shell. He gradually realizes that he has lost his arms, legs, and all of his face, including his eyes, ears, nose, teeth, and tongue. But that his mind functions perfectly, leaving him a prisoner in his own body.
Man.
I'll keep going. Although the film takes place in and around Fort Polk, Louisiana, Camp Blanding, Florida, just outside Stark was where most of the film was shot.
In 1943, Camp Blanding became an infantry replacement center, training soldiers to be sent to existing infantry divisions as replacements, providing a high percentage of the replacements sent to Army combat units during World War II. More than 800,000 soldiers were trained at Camp Blanding. The base was also, sadly, an internment camp for 343 Japanese, German, and Italian immigrant residents of the United States. So the sort of sad history there were that camp where the film was filmed.
The actors had no trailers, makeup artists, hairstylists, chairs, or any kind of typical luxuries. I call BS, but it's trivia.
Listen, I had to dig hard for all this trivia. It's not. They don't exactly have like a current website.
Laz has daggers.
There's some shade. There's so much shade.
Got daggers. Okay.
It's not shade to anybody except
it's...
for maybe Joel Schumacher.
I can't. Oh, Tigerland was filmed with 16 milliliter. Oh my goodness. Tigerland was filmed with 16 millimeter film to give a gritty documentary-like feel.
And I'm the one with the margarita?
There's vodka.
Yeah, I
in this
thought so.
water
The movie's widest theatrical release was only 5 theaters.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
So this was definitely one of my blockbuster finds.
Greg Sestero, who played Mark in the infamous movie The Room, 2003, auditioned for Colin Farrell's role.
Hi, Mark. Sorry, I had to throw it in there.
Oh.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Hi, Mark. The film's score was composed by Nathan Larson, who also wrote the scores for Velvet Goldmine, David Bowie-inspired biopic, Boys Don't Cry, and The Skeleton Twins, among many others.
Did you guys see Skeleton Twins?
Yep.
I believe so. That was with
Kristen Wiig and Bill
Yes.
Hader.
Yes, I did see that movie. Yes.
Quick thumbs up or down, Laz.
So I have a bias. I will
Uh-oh.
watch anything with Kristen Wiig. She's
Mhm.
like one of my spirit animals. So like when you catch me on a good day and like I'm like being funny about things, I'm kind of Kristen Wiig. Like I'll do like the Kristen Wiig dance and be all like, but
People listening, you should see this
Oh, it's
dance that
glorious.
he just did. It's phenomenal.
you'll see it in Vegas. But yeah, I thought it was a decent film, not a great film.
I have the same opinion. I go back to it because it's dark and sad, but
Yeah,
starring
it is.
comedians. So, final thoughts for this week's discussion of Tigerland. I thought it would be appropriate, in spirit of Boz, to give out honorable discharge papers. So, for me personally, this film, I'm going to give it a solid 4 discharge papers, just because of how much I've enjoyed it and how much nostalgia it is for me always to revisit it. It's personal for me, so I'll give it 4. Yeah, it's got flaws, but I love it.
4 out of 5.
Yeah.
Rock on.
I am going to give this 3.5 out of 5 papers. I think that, there are some things that don't age well. I think also, again, having that 23-year gap to be able to look back at this now, there are some things that don't work as well, but I still think it's a good piece of art. So I give it 3.5 out of 5.
And I will give 2 out of 5 discharge papers. I've been very nice about this film comparatively to other films. I just feel like there's a lot of toxic masculinity in here, and I need more ladies in my films. It was
That aren't
hard
strippers.
to relate. What?
Well, I'm just saying the ladies that were in this film were all strippers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Hello, feminist man here.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna leave it at that and say that's my reason.
Well, okay. I am curious about this, though. Out of a ranking of all of Joel Schumacher's work, where does this rank?
Like at the top.
Oh, there we go. We're gonna use that in the ad.
And
That is manipulation right there. Rude.
What shows are on BQN, you ask? Well, here's a rundown of some podcasts you might be interested in. All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast covering all of Trek, hosted by Amy, Mark, Christos, and Kelvin. Bargain Bin Gamer, a YouTube show hosted by Davey, a self-proclaimed gamer who specializes in reviewing and showcasing affordable video games. If you're lost in the Delta Quadrant, check out The Captain's Couch, a Star Trek Voyager podcast hosted by Jeremiah sitting on Janeway's Ready Room couch. Cinema Z, a film discussion and review podcast showcasing films you probably missed but should definitely check out, hosted by Mark, Matt, and Laz. Beam Aboard the Galaxy Class, a Star Trek Next Generation podcast covering all of TNG, hosted by Amy, Joe, Rhea, and Kevin. History with the Szilagys, a snippet of historical events from around the world, hosted by Chrissie and Jason. For the newest Trek coverage, check out Infinite Diversity, hosted by Chrissie and Thad. Test your Trek knowledge with Treksperts Quiz, a Star Trek quiz show hosted and written by Davey. Union Federation, covering all things Star Trek and the Orville, which we all know is really a Star Trek show, hosted by Kyle, Kevin, Amy, and Haley. Spill the Tea with What's the Tea, Bev, a Trek current events and fan interview show hosted by Christos. And for our Patreon members, we have The Hive Mind, BQN's monthly roundtable discussion with hosts and listeners. It's Green, a cornucopia of topics hosted by Mark, and Amy's Math Moments, a quick look at math moments in Star Trek, hosted by Amy. We know you have a choice of podcasts to choose from, and we thank you for listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
And I have to say, I don't want to kink shame.
Oh. We couldn't get an episode without you saying that anyway.
No, we couldn't. I will be honest, and I will put myself out there. I do have a thing for men in uniform.
Ooh.
So there were a lot of moments in this movie which got me tingly in the nethers, and that's all I'm going to say.
Well, I won't let you just stand there by yourself. I also can appreciate a man in uniform. I can also appreciate a man out of uniform.
Agreed.
Hey, Matt, though. So I have my sister's Marquez from her military. Do you want me to show it to you at some time?
Oh wow. Just hitting me where it hurts or where it feels good. I don't know. Either or. Yes.
Fair enough.
All right. Well, Laz, I think it's appropriate if you discuss what we're going to be talking about next week.
Okay. So get ready, folks. Next week, we'll be discussing one of my favorite films of all time, Batman Returns.
Yes.
The synopsis is, the monstrous penguin, played by Danny DeVito, who lives in the sewers beneath Gotham, joins up with the wicked, shock-headed businessman Max Schreck, played by Christopher Walken, to topple the Batman, played by Michael Keaton, once and for all. But when Schreck's timid assistant, Selena Kyle, played by, applause all around, Michelle Pfeiffer, finds out, and Schreck tries to kill her, she is transformed into the sexy Catwoman. She teams up with the Penguin and Schreck to destroy Batman, but sparks fly unexpectedly when she confronts the Caped Crusader.
Oh, so good. This podcast, we said that we are going to gather to discuss, the art house and absurd, and I think that this might end up in the absurd category, but it's delightful, and we all three of us actually love this film, and can recognize Tim Burton as a filmmaker that has a very unique, stylized vision. Like we were talking, I think, in the last episode, but sometimes you can just see a frame from a film and you're like, oh, it's that director. I know who did that. And that takes skill and craftsmanship to develop your own artistic vision, artistic style for a film and have it come across time and time again. And I think it definitely warrants merit and a discussion as a really good piece of cinema. So I'm going to enjoy talking about it.
For anyone that questions this film in terms of what we've seen before, reminder, when it was released, it was not well received. It's only a cult classic now.
What?
It was critics hated it.
Oh, I loved it as a kid.
Like
I didn't know that.
Merchandising was pulled from the film. It was too dark for kids.
I got the McDonald's toys.
Bonkers.
Shock and awe. I did not know this.
We'll dive deeper because
we gotta dive deeper. I didn't know any of that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
Get as excited as Matt is, folks.
I mean, yeah, I'm genuinely shocked.
Well, we would love to hear what you thought of today's episode and hope you'll join our Facebook group, the BQN Collective, to continue the discussion there. You can also tweet your thoughts at CinemaZPod and let us know if you'd like to recommend a film. Please follow the network on Twitter and Instagram at BQN Podcasts. So, Matt, where can people find you when you are not trying to run away from the army while in your skivvies, running out of the back shower?
Oh gosh. I mean, would I really run away? Or run to? Anyway, you can find me on Instagram at 170BLERD. And Lars, where can people find you when you are not standing at attention?
Ooh.
Thanks for that. You can find me on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, as well as now Threads at Laz Marquez, LazMarquez. If you're interested in seeing my work within the entertainment business, you can go to www.lazmarquez.com. And Mark, where can people find you when you're not having sexy time in front of your best friend in the same room?
Not to kink shame, but that's not actually a bad way to pass the time. I don't know. I got no shame. You got it, flaunt it. That's what they say. Anyway, when I'm not doing that, you can find me in the BQN Collective Facebook page. You can find me on my other show, All Good Things. It's a Star Trek podcast with Miss Amy Nelson. You can also find me on Twitter at MarkWhite207.
Please hit the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a star rating and written review. That helps others to find the show. You can also follow the entire network's podcasts with our master feed by searching BQN.
At this time, we would like to thank our associate producer, Amy Nelson. A special thanks to Lars Marquez for our artwork each and every week. The opening and closing music for this podcast is titled Dancing Dead, and it was provided by Ketsa from the Free Music Archive, providing royalty-free music for content creators.
If you'd like to help us keep all of our shows coming to you each week, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. We'll add you to the Hive Mind Facebook group so you can enjoy It's Green, Amy's Math Moments, and other network perks. With a monthly subscription of $5 or more, you can join our meetings on the Hive Mind Roundtable discussion on the second Saturday of each month. Visit patreon.com/BQN to get all the details and watch your messages.
Attention, soldier! Thank you for listening.
We hope you'll tune in next time. Meanwhile, I'll be looking for a few good men.
Sound off. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh shit! I need a lighter.
Now you listen to me, son.
Wait. Let me get a lighter. I want to get a lighter. I want sound effect. I planned a sound effect.
We're going for authenticity.
Actually, I have one.
You do?
And he went away.